Hello, this is Zebulon McCorkle from Matrix PC, and today we're bringing you a $1,225 PC that is VR ready and runs on the brand new AMD Ryzen 5 line of CPUs. So this thing is VR ready, so you can hook it up to your HTC Vive, your Oculus Rift, whatever VR headset you have, and you can enjoy the latest VR titles. So it would be honestly, okay, I just got distracted. Take 3! I need to edit this. This is gonna not be fun to edit. Good thing I have a 3 terabyte hard drive. Ugh. This is Zebulon McCorkle with Matrix PC, and today we're bringing you a $1,225 PC that is VR ready, so it has a GTX 1060 graphics card, and it runs on the brand new AMD Ryzen 5 line of CPUs. So this CPU is VR ready, meaning that you can hook up your Oculus Rift, your HTC Vive, your OS VR, whatever you have VR headset wise, and you can play the latest VR titles, tech demos, etc., and they should be about as good as it gets. It runs on the Ryzen 5 platform, which is really Ryzen's prime gaming CPU line. So this thing has an AMD Ryzen 1500X processor. It comes with a Wraithspire cooler, although we will be replacing that with something else later down the line, right around here, because it's a 1500X processor. It's binned to be overclockable, so you better betcha it's going to be overclocked. It runs at 3.5 gigahertz, and it boosts up to 3.7 gigahertz on maybe a couple cores at a time. 4 cores, 8 threads, so it's a pretty decent processor, especially for that price tag right there. If you compare that to i5s, it's about in the price range of i5s, except it's overclockable, and it has simultaneous multithreading, or as Intel calls it, hyperthreading. And as with every other Ryzen processor so far, 16 megabytes of cache, of L3 cache, which is ginormous for a 4-core processor. You are not going to find 16 megs of cache in an Intel 4-core processor. Now, this processor is pretty powerful, especially for gaming, which is what this rig is made for. It's not going to bottleneck you much, if at all. So you can see these benchmarks in various games. It's pretty much within margin of error of every other CPU benchmark. It actually sometimes is better than the 7700K, such as in Deus Ex Mankind Divided at 1080p, or at any resolution. It, as a matter of fact, gets the highest score at 1440p in Deus Ex Mankind Divided. So it's not a slouchy CPU, except if this game is extremely CPU bound, like apparently Dishonored 2 seems to be. To cool this thing, we've got a CryoRig A80 hybrid cooler. So I've done some reading around, and this seems to be a great AIO cooler for overclocking. It has a 280mm radiator, which will fit in the case. You'll be seeing that in a minute. It has an air cooler on the actual water block, as well as the radiator, which I haven't seen that too much in coolers. So this hybrid cooler is pretty new to me. Now, if you're going to want to run it on the Ryzen platform, you're going to need an AM4 upgrade kit. Link in the description, as well as a link in the description to where you can buy all of these parts on Amazon, and where you can buy all of these parts in a pre-assembled computer by Matrix PC. So these upgrade kits, you just put in which cooler you have, upload your proof of purchase, put in your name, email, address, phone number, there you go. They'll send you off a free mounting bracket. Now, it wouldn't be an actual Ryzen 5 platform if we didn't have the really nice motherboard. So this is an AMSI Gaming X370 motherboard. It's the X370 SLI Plus. So if you ever wanted to do SLI, then I guess if you replace the GPU, you could, because this GPU does not support SLI. It does not have SLI fingers. So it supports Ryzen series processors. It supports DDR4, SLI, Crossfire, USB 3.1 Gen 2, which that's important. It's the 10 gigabit variety, not the 5 gigabit. It's a really fancy looking motherboard, which, if you can kind of tell, I'm going for a bit of a black and white scheme here, so it's really nice to have a nearly completely black motherboard. So it's a pretty decent motherboard, nice ratings. It works for what you need it to work for. It has all the connectivity you might want. It's got USB out the wazoo, USB 3.1 Gen 2 right there. It's pretty great. And then, of course, to go into those DDR4 ports, sockets, not ports, I was talking about earlier, you're going to need some RAM. So, again, with a black and white aesthetic, some white Corsair Vengeance LPX 16GB DDR4 RAM. It's fancy. It's 3000 megahertz, which is kind of pushing the limits of Ryzen. 3200 megahertz, from what I hear, is about as high as you're going to go with Ryzen. However, this is less than 3200 megahertz, so you're good. And if you do ever have issues with it, you can always underclock it. So it's white, it fits well with the color scheme, it's fast, and it's by a trusted manufacturer. It's all good. And speaking of memory, there is no hard drive. There is no SATA SSD in this build. There is a $200 512GB NVMe SSD. These things are blazing fast, and the Intel SSD 600P series is really cheap for what they are. So, you know what? I'm going to go look this up. Let's take a look at what benchmarks they're getting. And, it's pretty decent when you take a look at the fact that these are all NVMe. Well, no, they're not. Heh, I lie. I actually don't know what I'm looking at here, so one moment. One moment. There we go. Now, they're pretty decent considering this. I'm looking at it, and yes, this is the highest SATA SSD there. It's fast. I have pretty much this SSD in my main rig. It's crazy fast. I don't know what I would do with an Intel SSD 600p. That's fast. And honestly, if you're doing gaming, you don't need faster. Not in 2017. This is plenty fast enough for you for gaming. Now, I say not in 2017. Later on, you will probably, like, many years from now, this will stop being overkill. However, for now, this is plenty for gaming. And it also doesn't add any clutter to your case. You don't need wires strewn about. You don't need SATA cables. You don't need SATA power cables. It's just slotted into your motherboard. You're all good to go. That's really what's great about M.2 SSDs. And then, well, this is kind of separated from the other main bit. This is the Asus GTX 1060 dual fan OC, etc., etc. It's white. It has a nice cooler. It's pretty cheap. What more can I say? So it's a GTX 1060. It runs games well. It can do VR. You get your crazy frame rates. Not that crazy, but you get your very, very playable frame rates at 1440p. And you get your higher than 60 frame rates at 1080p in most games. So if I were to go over to Dirt Rally, there you go, 1440p above 60 FPS. Ashes of the Singularity, this is what kills GPUs. And it also kills CPUs. So you can see that the GTX 1060, it's pretty much the same on both resolutions, because it has compute, it has CPU, it's not directly resolution scalable. But that's still a pretty decently playable frame rate, especially at the extreme quality. Ashes of the Singularity just kills PCs. Battlefield 4, above 60. It's a good GPU. And not only can it do all of this with regular gaming, it's VR ready. It's, you know what, I bet it says in the box. Yeah, VR ready. There you go. You can run VR games on it. It's, let's see, do they have any VR? No, they don't have any. I'm sad. They don't have any VR there. That's too bad. So, it's VR ready. It completely demolishes games, especially at 1080p. And it's overall a pretty fantastic GPU, especially for the price of $250. And so just to tie this all together, tie this whole color scheme and everything all together, NZXT S340, it's a beautiful case. It's simple, it's easy to build in, and it just has everything you'd want in a case. So you can mount your radiator in the front, you can mount it on the top if you wanted. It has a whole bay for the power supply, so the power supply is not going to be the prettiest thing around, but it'll work well. It has spaces if you wanted to put some 2.5-inch SSDs, some cable management over there. It's overall a great place. It's a joy to build in. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And then the power supply, there's not much to say. It's a 550 watt power supply, fully modular, EVGA, tier 1. Your PC will probably not blow up if it has this power supply in it. And the fancy stuff has some cable mod cables. So if I head over to the configurator, let's just reconfigurator this. I chose black cables. You can choose really whatever color you want. So you just go in to the configurator, you put in what you want. What was this? No, this was G2550. Where is it? G2550. There we go. Next step. So you put in what kind of cables you want. So I want a 24-pin ATX in black, and there you go. That's what the black looks like. Looks nice. And you can choose whatever colors you want. Like I could make my 8-pin PCIe be orange, I guess, if I wanted to do that. If I wanted to have a white, black, and orange scheme. Kind of strange, but you can do it if you want. And so that makes the inside of your case look nice. So if you ever are looking in, it'll look fancy. And this computer will also perform very nicely. So overall, this costs about $1,225. That's before taxes or shipping. Although it's Amazon, shipping's going to be free if you're spending over $1,000. If you're spending over $50. And after taxes, at least in the state of Texas, it comes out to around $1,300, $1,350. And that's what we charge if you want us to build it for you. We charge you the Amazon prices, plus shipping, plus taxes, plus whatever else we get charged. And that's it. And we also charge, we also have to charge another thing. We have to charge getting it to you. We need to somehow pay for shipping to get it to you. Sorry about that. It's just so terrible having to pay for things to get shipped, maybe even across the country, across the world. What kind of world are we living in where we have to pay for that? Whatever, that's completely off topic. So, if you build this computer, tell me in the comments. I'd love to know. I'd love to see pictures. And if you'd like this computer built, send us a PM on YouTube, click the link in the description, leave a comment, do whatever. Just get in touch with us, and we will work with you to get a computer built for you. Thanks for watching, and hope you like, favorite, subscribe, comment. Let's see, what else is there? If there's a poll, I don't know why there would be a poll, but fill out that poll up in the corner somewhere. Maybe. I don't know. There might be a poll. I don't know. Just do whatever that makes sense. We'll see you next time on our next video that might have something to do with a computer. Might have something to do with a tutorial. I have no clue what we're going to do next time. Well, see you then.